Good evening. The time is 6:30. It is Tuesday, September 27th. I'd like to call this regularly scheduled Planning and Zoning meeting to order. May we have a roll call, please?
Timmons. Mata.
Here.
Mccall. Guerra.
Here.
James.
Here.
Chase.
Here.
Thank you. 4 members present. We have a quorum. Item number 3, executive session. 3A, executive session pursuant to Texas Local Government Code, Section 551.071, consultation with attorney regarding procedural matters related to postponed on 9/13/22, consider impossible recommendation to the City Council for request by Amanda Swor of Drenner Group to rezone approximately 9.12 acres of land to PUD MXD for property located at the northwest corner of North Burleson and Marketplace Avenue in Hays County, Texas. Julia Parker Family Partnership and the L.W. Parker Family Trust, Z-22-0104. The time is 6:31. We are going into executive session now. Time is 7:03. I'm going to reconvene our meeting into open session. During executive session, there was no action taken, but Commissioner Timmons did resign. Okay. Item number 4, citizen comments. 4A, citizen comments period. If there's anyone in the public who would like to speak, this is your chance now. We ask that you limit your time to 3 minutes, that you come up to the podium, state your name, and that you fill out a citizen comments form. If anyone would like to come up, you may come up now. Seeing none, I'm going to close citizen comments. Citizen comments is now closed. Item number 5, presentation. 5A, recognition of Megan Mccall for her years of service on the Planning and Zoning Commission. We're going to postpone this item. Do we need to take a vote for postponing of a presentation?
I do not believe so. I think you can just say we're going to postpone this to the next meeting.
Thank you. We're going to postpone this one to the next meeting. All right. Item number 6, nominations and elections. If there's no objections, I would like to take items A and B together. Item A, nominations for chair and vice chair. Item B, elections for chair and vice chair. The reason for, I would like to do the nominations and election for the chair first, in case someone gets nominated for chair and then does not get that position, would like to then be nominated for vice chair. Is everyone okay with that? Okay. So we're going to start with nominations for chair. Is there anyone who'd like to make a nomination? Yes.
Mr. Chair, I don't see any reason to make any changes to how we've been currently doing business. I feel that you have been doing a great job, so I would like to nominate you to continue in your capacity as chair.
Thank you. I do accept that nomination. Is there anyone else who would like to make any other nominations? Okay, then we'll go ahead and, do we motion and vote? Okay, would someone like to make that motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, thank you. It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Nominations for vice chair. Would anyone like to make any nominations for the vice chair? I will go ahead and make a nomination. I will nominate Commissioner Chase to vice chair.
I will accept the nomination.
Thank you. Are there any other nominations we'd like to make for vice chair? Okay, then I move we appoint Commissioner Chase to vice chair. Is there
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed. Motion passes. Item number 7, consent. 7A, Bruce, I'm sorry, it was just, we only have A today for consent. Are there any motions?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Motion to approve item 7A.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and approved. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 All opposed. Motion passes. Item number 8, zoning. 8A, postponed on 9/13/22. Consider and possible recommendation to City Council for a request by Amanda Swor of Drenner Group to rezone approximately 9.12 acres of land to PUD MXD for property located at the northwest corner of North Burleson and Marketplace Avenue in Hayes County, Texas. Julia Parker Family Partnership and the L.W. Parker Family Trust, Z-22-0104. Mr. Atkinson.
Will Atkinson, Planning Director for the record. So at the last time y'all met, at the request of the applicant following significant discussion, they had requested this item be postponed for consideration, and now it's back. They have coordinated with us to work to meet those requirements that you had asked for them to bring back to them, including more clarification to parking spaces per bedroom, and also a parking study, and it also shows the different timing of the days for the different types of land uses and all that effectively in there as well. And then the last item, and let me just pull up the item here. And they also updated the concept plan as well. So staff does believe that they have adequately met the request of the Planning and Zoning Commission, and it does make sense as far as we are able to understand it. We are not experts at the trip generation, I'll say that. But at a higher level, at a basic level, it does seem to make sense. And if you have any questions of the applicant, feel free to ask them. So.
Thank you. Are there any questions for staff or for the applicant? Yes, Vice Chair Chase.
Would you mind pulling up the concept plan?
Sure. I would also like to make a statement, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
We provided y'all Exhibit B, which was missing in the ordinance as well, just for the record. We provided that this evening. This concept plan that they updated is mostly reflective of an increase of units within the same footprint of the buildings that they are proposing, just as a heads up.
So I don't know if this is a question you'll be able to answer, but my concern previously was traffic, one, to the proximity to that second exit to the roundabout. And as I was looking at this again this weekend, what about left turns from out of the roundabout into the complex? Is that going to be allowed there? Again, I know this is probably not a question that you'll be able to answer.
Typically, questions of that manner are usually done at the site development permit process, and we make sure that they meet the City of Austin Transportation Criteria Manual from that perspective. So a concept plan, while it is to scale, may not necessarily reflect those specific items. So as a function of that review, we will do everything we can to adequately make sure that that driveway pan, if you will, is effectively as far away as possible from any conflict points of the traffic circle.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you could see where I'm seeing a major conflict point there is if you're trying to turn left, the train's there, you're now backing up that entire roundabout until the traffic can get through, but the traffic can't get through if no through traffic can get through the roundabout because folks are sitting there waiting for their left turn.
I understand that for sure. Not trying to interrupt you, excuse me.
No problem. My second question, if you don't mind,
you have the floor.
There was a comment in the staff report that a chip generation spreadsheet was going to be provided. Maybe I didn't see that, or it's within that parking. So this is more, I guess, a question for the applicant as well.
Yes.
If maybe you want to speak to that, and then maybe speak through that parking, if the commission will allow.
Thank you. Good evening. My name's Amanda Swor with Drenner Group. Can you hear me okay? I
Yes,
hear
ma'am.
myself, which is always the worst. So thank you for the opportunity to meet with you. We did provide, we did run through two things based on the last conversation. One was the parking study, and the second was the trip generation. And really what we ran was, okay, if we have the project as we propose it today, and we ran both the AM trips, the PM trips, as well as the 24-hour trips, and then we did kind of a conservative estimate on what you could build today under the existing zoning. And the numbers that we showed is it's under what we're proposing is about over half of the trips that you would otherwise develop with a commercial zoning, commercial project under this. So exact numbers, just for the record, if you were looking at a project that had a shopping center, restaurants, etc., you would be at about 4,954 vehicle trips per day. The project that we're proposing is 2,445, and that's 24-hour trips, right? So that's coming and going. That's everybody throughout the whole day. So over half of what would otherwise be done. And the peak trips are both also significantly lower for AM and PM peak on a 24-hour basis.
Thank you. Are there any other questions for staff or for the applicant? Okay. I have a question for the applicant. So I did meet with the applicant this past week, and we did discuss my concerns that I had spoke on the dais last time, just about the number of parking spaces per bedroom. That is clearer now in the new material we have. The question I have is something that was brought to my attention that I don't know if it was discussed here, is the plans you all have for the side that is facing the railroad. I want to make sure that any information we spoke about is in public. So can you discuss what you plan to do on that side of the property?
Yes. Give
Please.
me just 1 second. I'm gonna let Josh Stelk with the Reconvene come and speak to that.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm Josh Stelk with the Reconvene Development Company. One thing that we try to do when we're developing in a community is really try to embrace the history of the community, what makes it so special. And the rail, obviously, in Kyle has been a huge component of why Kyle exists and how it's thrived over time. And so, and I don't know if I'm telling you too much, but we're really trying to embrace it, honestly, instead of turning our back to it. Now, that doesn't mean that we're not going to do additional sound attenuation for the units that are facing it so that it's not, a nuisance to them. But our intention is really to sort of utilize the area in between the tracks and sort of where our residents would park their vehicles, and to amenitize them with grills where you can just pull up your truck and put down the, tailgate and have a little tailgate back there against the tracks. Our plans are calling for us to build an outdoor structured amenity space over in the northwest portion of our property near our pond over at the tracks. And really, it's intended to be sort of the train watching platform, where there would also be, the ability to sit around and, socialize. But we're trying to embrace it, I guess, is my point. And so I think that's what you'll see between the parking lot and the tracks, to the extent, that it's safe, along with landscape screening, trees, shade, etc.
Great, thank you. Are there any other questions for staff or for the applicant? Okay, would anyone like to make a motion? Oh, did you have something to say, Will?
I was going to say, before y'all make a motion, the applicant does have a presentation that they have asked to present. You're good? Okay, well, never mind. All right.
Okay, would anyone like to make a motion? Yes, sir.
I move to approve item.
Can you turn your mic on?
Sorry. Thank you. I move to approve item 8A.
Second that?
Thank you. It's been motioned and seconded. Is there any discussion on that item? Vice Chair Chase.
So I think I've made my concerns pretty clear on this. And to be honest, you just added some additional concerns. You're putting an amenity and a place for trucks to back up and tailgate and everything in people's backyards, essentially. Those are single-family homes right on the other side of that track. As it is, I was concerned with the parking lot. That can get pretty noisy. People working on cars, I know, won't be allowed, but we know that those things could happen. There's a lot of concerns from the neighbors in that community. First off, about privacy, and the buildings are far enough away where, maybe that doesn't hurt it. But adding barbecue grills and a space to socialize now, right there in those folks' backyards is a pretty tough one to be able to move forward with this, for me, anyway. So,
Thank you. Any other discussion? Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Mr. James.
I think this was one of the things to discuss about this. This is one of the hardest properties I think we've had to deal with in the few years that I've been on here. I think a lot of it, there is a lot of concerns of making sure all these things are taken care of in the size and weird shape this lot is, and also knowing that we don't really have a full definition being exactly where it's at due to how we've kind of given a mid space, as it was I can't remember the specific name on top of my head, kind of a mid space between like this area of Kyle and over by I-35. And so, yeah, core transition area. Thank you for reminding me, Vice Chair Chase. Yeah, I hear the concerns, but I also think that there's still a lot of time staff is going to get with this application. And also, the ownership that UP has of that railroad track is wide enough that I think there's still some screening and things that go on at that side of it, as well as the applicant did mention there is going to be screening, as he said right there. I think that this is something that we should go forward with and kind of let some of these smaller details go to staff.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion? Okay, I'm going to weigh in my 2 cents. So last time we talked about this item, I had a lot of questions. I had a lot of questions about the parking. What I was given was there was a certain number of parking spaces, a certain number of units, but I didn't know what the correlation was. I was afraid there were going to be very large units with very few parking spaces. The applicant has done a good job on these new changes to clearly list multifamily dwelling parking shall be a ratio of 1 space per bedroom, and that there are going to also be specific spaces for retail as well. And so I think I think the changes that have been made to make sure there is enough parking, but also I do not believe this lot will be over parked either. I think it is at a good ratio, and the concerns I had at the previous meeting have now all been they've all been met. I think, yes, given this lot, I do think it is hard to find something that is good to put here, but this does make sense. This is going to be good for the applicant, good for the city. They're going to be part of the vibe trail, and I do support this item. I think it's a good spot for what it is. I think the applicant is trying to meet the city partway, and I do support it. As far as I know, we talked about traffic before. We talked about what is this going to do to traffic, and I understand those questions, but I also think that where else do we put density? We put density where density makes sense. There's your walkability to these places on the Vibe Trail. You can walk to the other places that are near here. Also, I don't necessarily want this kind of development on some of our roads that are already within our city that cannot take this many new units in it. This is a place I would put this. I support what they're doing. I support the location. I think this is a good good proposal, and I think that they've listened to us well and changed things accordingly. Is there any other discussion? Okay, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Mata,
Approve.
Guerra,
Aye.
James,
Aye.
Chase.
No.
Okay, the vote is 3-1 with a 4-person quorum. That vote fails, or that vote is postponed, which is?
The vote, so in our rules for voting, if you have 4 people seated at the dais, it comes back to y'all at the next regularly scheduled meeting.
Thank you. Okay, yes, since it did not get a unanimous vote, it will
Correct.
come back to us at the next scheduled meeting,
Yes,
which will be October 11th?
October the 11th.
Okay, thank you. Item number 9, consider and possible action. 9A, consider a request to construct approximately 8,350 square feet restaurant building located at 19430 IH35 within the I-35 overlay district. Rudy's Country Store and Barbecue, conditional use permit, CUP-22-0063. Ms. Sharp.
Kayla Sharp, city planner for the record. We have a conditional use permit for building elevations within the I-35 overlay. It's a little over 8,300 square feet for Rudy's Barbecue. And let me share so y'all can see the location. It's right at the corner of Kohler's and the I-35 frontage. All right, here's location. And staff has reviewed it and has found that it is compliant with the I-35 overlay. It's going to have materials consisting primarily of painted stucco, limestone veneer, hardy plank, and has many architectural features as well. And we recommend approval of this item. And I'm going to stop sharing so Will can pull up the elevations. So these renderings don't exactly match. The elevations match. The renderings don't exactly match. There have been a few minor changes, mostly just in material, from hardy plank to painted stucco. Everyone knows Rudy's has a signature look for their architectural style, and it's usually the red hardy plank. Per our I-35 overlay, hardy plank is not considered a masonry material, so the applicant changed that to the painted stucco that you see here. Are there any questions?
Thank you. Are there any questions for staff? Yes, sir.
Will, would you mind scrolling down to the landscape plan? Okay. That was it. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Thank you. So I did have a question about, I don't know if I've ever voted on something before with those outdoor pits, outdoor barbecue pits. So from the elevations, it looked like it still had somewhat of a roof and walls, correct? It was, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, yes.
Okay, thank you. Good, no, I'm good. There's no other questions. Does anyone want to make a motion?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
move to approve item 9A.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved by Vice Chair Che, seconded by Commissioner James. Is there any discussion on the motion?
I'd just like to say that, you know, I'm glad that they kind of switched it up away from that hardy plank. It looks like a great building.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Motion passes. Item number 10, general discussion. 10A, discussion only regarding Planning and Zoning Commission request for future agenda items. Are there any commissioners who would like to see something on a future agenda?
I think I'd like to have a discussion as to what we should continue to consider MXD, what components, what square footage of retail. I think at times we've been skirting the spirit of MXD, where it's a little more housing and less retail. So I'd like to have the commission discuss that.
Thank you. Are there any other items you'd like to see on future agendas? Okay. Item number 11, staff report. 11A, staff report by William Atkinson, Interim Director of Planning.
Actually, it's Director of Planning.
Oh,
After the agenda posting. So I had my annual review, and they offered it. So it's permanent. Yeah, we're working out the details from HR, but yes, effectively, yes.
congratulations.
Thank you. Appreciate it. But no, it's been everybody that's on our team that really does help support that. So it wasn't me alone. So the biggest things are we're finishing with data collection mode on the comp plan. So we're starting to move past that. We're going to start getting some stuff set up, mostly internally with staff meetings and meeting with them, and then start working on getting a couple of surveys out before the end of the year and what have you. When I say data collection mode, it meant all the data that the city had that we were able to give to them that they were requesting. But now, in the next phase, we're going to be moving on to citizen input and what have you. As part of the contract, we are also going to be putting together a citizen board. It probably will not include y'all necessarily from an ethics perspective, but we're going to be working on getting that done relatively quickly and just making sure we're moving forward with that. As one of my reoccurring ones, as usual, the APA conference is in October. We are pretty much all signed up, but if you still want to go, we can look into see if it's something that can still be done. We have a couple new commissioners that are on the board, and we are offering that to them and just double checking that there's still some openings and what have you as well to get out there. Lastly, maybe not lastly, if anybody else has anything, but the November 8th meeting is a Tuesday, of course, but that's also election day. So as the elections will be going leading up to that point and having all the voting machines back here in the Falcone room, we're probably going to put it on the following Wednesday, the day after, November the 9th. But that may change if we need to move that around a little bit if there's problems. So it's going to have further discussion, and we'll work something out. So that's all I have at this time. Do you have anything? I'm kind of ambushing you, but okay. Yeah. So that's all I got.
Thank you. Item number 12, adjournment. Yes, ma'am. Should we take a recess? No. Okay, that's fine.
So we just found the code. We misstated. If there are 4 seated members present and only, it requires a 3-1 vote.
Okay.
So y'all voted, your vote was good, but then you tabled the item so it needs to be recalled and clarified that the item can move forward.
Okay.
Point of order.
Turn your mic on.
Point of order. Since this is a result of a vote and not necessarily the main motion itself, would we have to recall it?
I just need you to announce in the meeting
Okay.
that there was an error and correct the error.
Announce in the next meeting? Oh, in this meeting. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. Yes. So there was an error in the
Stated.
yes, there was an error in the statement after the vote.
Yes.
So now, do we revote, or do we just clarify that it was a 3-1 vote and 3-1 passes?
Correct.
So it was item number 8A passes with a 3-1 vote.
Correct.
Thank you. Okay, are we ready for item 12? Okay, item 12, adjournment. I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved by myself, seconded by Commissioner Mata. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Motion passes. Good night, everyone.